Hello, welcome to Level Up TV.
Oh, God.
Classic welcome with hello there. NVC, oh, the other way. Vor, me, and this is We're Talking It, episode 6. It says Vor, some sarky remarks about how we haven't done this for a while. And welcome to the show, blah blah blah. And
Well,
then,
that's a real professional intro.
and then it says can ask what you've been up to. So what you've been up to, let's start with NVC. What you've been doing, what exciting stuff you've been doing.
Exciting stuff. Are we talking about what I've been doing on the internet world or in general? Obviously, AI hit the gym, so that was that.
Look at that, he's so strong, so strong. Go on.
No, but in the gaming world, I just obviously do stuff for Team Dignitas now, so a lot of traveling, a lot of YouTube videos, which is kind of interesting now because I don't like looking at the old videos. It's gone like fat to thin, so it's been a journey. But yeah.
You used to be really skinny though, didn't you?
Yeah,
Back in the day.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Well,
Before you met us, really, wasn't it?
yeah, thinking about it, Vor must have bullied me into like eating. I don't know.
I wouldn't do that.
I know you wouldn't. I'm joking.
the fear that I know you wouldn't. I'm sorry, please don't bully me.
Yeah.
Vor, you got anything interesting to tell us?
Nah, not really. I don't do anything very interesting.
Nothing interesting. Right, well, yeah, that's the great intro section. I could tell you about my interesting time. Went to Google headquarters the other day. Hey, how cool's that? Yeah.
Google
No,
headquarters?
No, okay, not
That sort of
okay.
thing doesn't impress me.
Does it impress you? I went on jury duty. How about that?
That did actually. I was quite interested in that.
Yeah, let her off. I'm not going to tell you about it now. It takes too long.
You're not allowed to, are you?
Literally takes 40. Yeah, I can tell you about it now. Just
Oh,
couldn't-
okay.
couldn't tell you at the time. Anyway, right, let's get on with it. So let's start off with a little overview of the changes of Quake Live, which is basically our main discussion today. So, had a nice message from the developers about the future of Quake Live and how it's going to be great, blah 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 blah. That was quite a long message actually. It was quite well written though, I have to say.
It was nice of them to write it, but if I'm honest, I didn't actually read it.
You just skipped over it, did you? That's pretty rude. So it's quite a big change. Are we calling this 2.0? Actually, I'm
Well,
not quite sure.
It can't be 2.0.
It's just an update. Don't give away your opinion too early, NVC. Right? We saw quite a lot of changes actually into the rule set. We saw things like players may now hold jump to continuously jump. Reduced ammo respawn time from 40 seconds to 10. Minimal changes, I would say. We had game changes. Higher resolution font added, NVC. I thought I'd highlight that one for you. I know you're quite particular about the smaller things.
To be honest, I don't think that's a small thing. I think are we going into detail now?
No, we're not.
No.
This is
Okay,
just,
we'll talk around
just
a
me.
bit.
Oh, we're not going. We're not going.
I've
into
got
detail
a
on
whole
that
segment
either.
We're
for the
not.
fun.
We're not.
Whole segment.
And then rule set changes: Quake Live, Turbo, and Classic. Ooh, exciting stuff. So let's get into the meat of it, shall we? So first of all, Vor, why don't you just give us your kind of overview, and let's keep it a little bit brief, not hours of discussion about it at this point. Just what's your overview of this change?
Well, when I initially saw the leaked change log, I thought there's quite a lot going on here. This is quite ambitious. Not sure that people will necessarily react well to it. But when you actually then look at the official release notes, I kind of look at certain things have been cut down, and it's not as big of a deal. There's not as much there as I really thought there was initially when I really went through it.
What is that? Just you getting confused, or is it literally like they scrap stuff from the test?
Well, no,
version?
it's just initial impression. I thought there's a lot going on here. There's things like, oh, we're going to change your movement speed when the gauntlet's out, but as far as I know, that's not made it to live. And obviously you've got the loadouts and things that we'll talk about later. But what I initially thought was going to be a major patch that fundamentally changed so many different things. It really isn't that big of a deal.
Right, that's your overall reaction. I hope NVC's got a different reaction. NVC, basic, simple change, not much has really happened like Vor thinks, or?
I think in terms of gameplay changes, a lot of the stuff, in terms of like you can hold jump to continuously jump, like the kind of stuff's good. Like I kind of needed to be in the game from the beginning. Like it's in Warsaw to a certain extent, it just makes life a whole lot easier. And then obviously to gain speed, you can't gain the amount of speed you need to strafe jump, so that's good as well. So there is some skill there to be learned in learning strafe jumping. There have been a couple of game types like free for all is completely broken now, and TDM completely broken, particularly with the two weapon loadout obviously that you can pick. I kind of think it's a good idea, but not when you can pick from the entire range of weapons, because who's going to pick a grenade launcher to start with? That would be stupid. So most people are going to, I mean, I'm not sure if you can pick the grenade launcher to start with.
You can.
But okay, you can.
The thing is though, you look at those changes, but they're not really intended for long-term players of the game to take advantage of, are they? This is all stuff that is supposed to try and help new players get into the game. I mean,
Yeah,
are you
just
as an experienced player really wanting to go on and play those changes? You know, you hear so many complaints about it. It's like people think we're going to be forced to go and play it, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I think the problem lies especially with the stats system and the whole back end, because none of the stats are recorded in Classic, only in the new game types. So, not that it's a big deal. Like, in my opinion, I'd rather stats just disappear, because, you know, people focus too much on stats sometimes. I think that's one of the reasons why Duel, for example, is held back, because too many people care about their elo on a public level. Yeah, even the new players.
Evil.
But, well, I mean, they're nice, they're nice.
Vor
You know what I mean.
Vor won't play FFA because he's got something like an 86% win rate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's actually...
He doesn't want to ever lose that.
I can't afford to. My entire reputation's built on it.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit of both. Like, I agree. I'm in agreement with Vor, but at the same time, the things I'm in disagree, or the things I think are potentially broken, are not exactly impossible to fix. They're just in the game types themselves. So
All right. So overall, NVC,
I don't
good,
think
bad,
it's,
major, minor.
I would say in the right direction, but perhaps too far in one direction.
Oh, okay. So if we look at what the community reaction was, got a couple of quotes here. This is, I think this gives a good cross section of what. So we had Skint saying, "All these hardcore Quakers going ape shit when it all changes is public. When all that changes is public servers. Why aren't you playing dual TDM pickup/clan or CTF pickup/clan? Eh?"
Well, I agree with him entirely. These changes aren't really intended to appeal to hardcore Quakers, and I would ask the exact same questions. You know, you have the option to still play what you're used to. Why wouldn't you be doing that?
Well, wait a second, Vor. To counter that point, Pill said, "I was considering to buy sub lately. Now I'm not. I'm not gonna support these retards. Starve for all I care." It's kind of
What? That's a bit extreme, isn't it?
That's the sort of thing I say to people when I lose on FIFA. I didn't really expect to read other things like that in Quake. I thought we were a bit of a more mature community.
We're not. We're clearly not.
Apparently not.
But that's kind of like, so. Well, I mean, we're looking at the community reaction, like overall. What
Well,
we're
that's
saying.
opposite end of the spectrum to what Skint said.
Opposite ends. But what are we saying? What does the community think overall? What's your impression about that?
Well, the impression I got, because I've looked at it two different ways. I've looked at it when the leaked changes come out, and that was a really, really negative reaction. And the reaction to the official changes isn't as hostile. I have to say, it's a lot more toned down. Maybe that's because people got it out of their system when the leak came out. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of made me laugh though, because I didn't even know about the leak till quite a while after it happened. It was the same day that I found out, but like, I
Same
wasn't there
day is quite a while
immediately.
later.
Well, it is. You know, things are moving quick on the
It's the
internet.
internet, yeah.
And I was laughing so much because it was like, you know, everyone on the internet's got a psychology degree, me included, and I knew I'd seen this reaction somewhere else, and it was like the 5 stages of loss and grief, and it followed along perfectly with that. You could look at different people within the community, and they'd all progress along it at different speeds. That's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance, and everyone went along it at different speeds, and it was quite amazing. I couldn't believe it was such a strong reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
and I go back to this, the original game that everyone's used to isn't disappearing. All these changes are an addition to the game. You don't have to play them.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. 'Cause what kind of I guess it's the expectation, isn't it? What are people expecting? Because, like I say, the game is still there. People can still play it. If they would, you've got Quake 3 still, which arguably has everything and then more as well. It's just difficult to get hold of with all the mods and all that sort of thing. So, I mean,
Where's my friends list?
what are people's expectations? Well, yeah, I
Okay,
suppose that.
all right. Well, let's break it down. We've already highlighted a few key points we wanted to discuss. So if I just bring them up, we'll see. You might want to add some more about fonts in VC if you want. Okay, here's a big.
Can I just say one more thing on the community reaction?
Right.
What I was disappointed with the initial, and I haven't read every comment, so in the 1,000+ comments, I may have missed someone who was going to bring stuff like this up, but I don't think I did. I was surprised that there was nobody who was willing to say things like, why don't we look at this as a community and say, how are we going to mitigate the damage we think the update will do? Why aren't we going to have people who are going to make sure that there are classic servers up available for new players to join who are coming into the game because of the new changes, but we then allow them to see the classic game at the same time? Make sure that there's plenty of classic servers there for people to join. It was just relentless negativity. It seemed like people had given up so easily on a game that they supposedly love so much, and they were just willing to say things like, "Oh, I'm unsubbing, guys. See you later. Game's dead."
See you later. Well, yeah.
I just thought it was disappointing. I thought Quake was a bit better than that.
You thought wrong. Anyway, right, okay. So, key points that we've pulled out. Introduced loadouts in select modes, allowing players to select one primary weapon and one secondary weapon. And then the primary weapons would be heavy machine gun, rocket launcher, lightning gun, or railgun. And the secondary weapons would be shotgun, grenade launcher, highlight weapon there, plasma gun, and machine gun. Is that different to the heavy machine gun?
Yeah, the heavy machine gun does like 8 damage per shot. It's ridiculous. Like, it's a good finishing weapon.
The original machine gun's still in there, and as you say, it's a secondary weapon.
Okay.
The heavy machine gun's a primary.
So what do we think about that then? These loadouts. What do you think, NVC?
For public play, I kind of like it, because I just spawn with heavy machine gun and lightning gun, or whichever one, and just aim away, which is what I enjoy doing. But obviously, when it comes to competitive play, it's a whole different ball game. I don't want to spawn with that. I want to spawn with machine gun. And I don't want to spawn with heavy machine gun either, because that would just be overpowered. So it's a tough one. But at the same time, you look at games like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and the game you play in public is kind of similar to the game you play in competitive, like in terms of matchmaking. People jump straight in, if they want to the competitive format, whereas in Quake Live, you have to actually go through and click Classic, do this, that, and the other to get to it. And obviously on top of that, pay. So even though you are sort of introducing noobs into the game by helping them with loadouts, it doesn't really introduce them into the game that we want them to play. And I think that's where my problem lies with the whole loadout idea.
What about you, Vor?
Yeah, I agree, because loadouts, that just isn't Quake. However, that isn't traditional Quake, should I say. It doesn't belong in, obviously, dual FFA, TDM, CTF, any of the traditional game modes. And obviously, I don't think they've actually put it in all of them, have they? It's in TDM, and is that it for public game types? I don't even think it's in CTF. But I'm not sure. Oh, and it's in FFA, obviously, as well. But it's not in dual, so it hasn't affected that. But what I would say is, I don't think there's anything wrong bringing loadouts into Quake if you make game types to fit it. It's not going to fit any of the traditional game types at all. People won't accept it. But who's to say you couldn't put it into, say, freeze tag or domination? I actually think it could improve those game types, particularly domination.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
And also, just from a new player's point of view, everyone says, well, it's not going to help a new player because veteran players will just spawn and dominate them with whatever weapon they've chosen in their loadout. Well, I'd still say it's more fun to spawn as a new player with a lightning gun or a rocket launcher and at least try and get some shots off with those than it is to just spawn with a machine gun and get absolutely decimated within 2 seconds. You might at least be able to do something, even if it's really not much more than before.
I think you should spawn with Gauntlet and you'll be half the speed.
I think you should spawn with Gauntlet and 20 health, and then you have to go and pick up health to get back to normal health. How about that? That's real hardcore. Keep those noobs out of Quake.
All right, well, let's move on to another one. And this is another point that actually I think we discussed about this a long time ago. like years ago that, I mean, I definitely wanted this. Added in-world item timers for major items, including armors, mega health power-ups, and medkit. There's firstly, like, Vor, if you can just describe exactly what that means, though.
Well, so right, you have the item on the ground. It's smaller than it would normally be when it's not there, and it has a little circular thing going around it that, as it comes closer to spawn, becomes a more complete circle.
Okay.
So when the item comes back, you see it as before, and when it disappears, you see a smaller version of it with the time around it.
So
it doesn't give you a countdown of an exact time. So, you know, if you're running around the map, right, obviously you can see when the time's halfway or 3/4, but you still don't know the exact second. I mean, maybe people will get to the point where they know just by how much is there, they'll know the exact time it's going to spawn, but, you know, it's not an actual timer or anything.
You've still got the timer on screen, right?
Yeah.
So if you pick it up, you will know the exact time.
Yeah, exactly. You'll still have to time like that if there are other people who know how to time the game.
Well, the other thing is that obviously, say like the red armor's got 4 little blinking icons. You could work out, if it's got 4, what's that? 25 divided by 4. It's some, you know, in between value, whatever. But you could.
I'm lost by the maths already.
But basically, I just don't see how anyone can really be that opposed to it. It's not going to be in a competitive game. It's just there. It will help people who are brand new to the concept of timing items on the ground.
Wait. Let me hold you back. It's not going to be in a competitive game.
Well, because
I was hoping it would be.
Well, I kind of agree because I don't like timing. Anything that makes it easy for me, the better. But it's not going to affect, you know, the competitive game types unless people want to host competitions for the new rule set.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean,
and they always have the option to do that, don't they?
Yeah, if you bring in a new rule set, then potentially you've got a larger player base. So that's the idea, isn't it? Then that becomes the competitive standard, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, what do you think, NVC, about this whole in-world timers? You for it? You against it? What?
I think it's a good idea. Like I said, I think if you were to bring it in competitive play, I think the only problem with it is you wouldn't need to actually be at the item when it's picked up, because if there's 4, that's like 6.25 seconds every. I got it. I mathed it. Right. Yeah, but you know what I mean. It's 6.25 seconds for every blink, so you could figure it out in your head anyway. Guess, even if you were nowhere near it. So it does have its downsides, but I think for public play, it's obviously a really good idea, and it will help at least get people to group around a specific area. They'll see this blinking down. Oh, I'm going to wait for this, and they'll actually pick it up. So it might improve, obviously, public play a little bit.
On the competitive thing, just quickly, I would have to ask: would it ruin it if you could go past an item and know roughly when it's up, or would it just change things?
Can I argue it would improve it vastly? Because at the moment, I take TDM for the example because we play it. Unless you know the time of the items, then it's a bit risky to try and attack or coordinate an attack on an area. If you have a rough idea by, you know, sneaking in, taking a peek when an item's going to spawn, then you can coordinate more attacks around it. You don't knowing the exact time of items.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not a visually exciting skill, is it, to know the exact time of an item? It maybe is sometimes when you get on a run in Duel. I actually quite like that, the accuracy of it. But you can still do that.
It's not the timing that's impressive. It's the movement around the map and controlling it based on the item times. It's not the actual act of timing itself. No one's going to, you know, say, oh, wow, his timing skills are so impressive. They'll be talking about how he controls the map and goes to the items on time, not just the skill of timing itself. Because, you know, you could know all the times but not be able to do anything with them, and then no one can see that you actually know the times then.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean. You know, you might know all the times, but people watching you will think, well, he's just not turned up to the item. What's he doing?
As one slice is 5 seconds, apparently there's 5 and not 4. So it's a bit easier than even though I was thinking.
Right, yeah. Okay, next highlighted point that we've got here. Lightning Gun now does 6 damage per cell across all rule sets. That includes Duel. Or 120 damage per second. Tell me, like, NVC or Vor, like, how does that actually relate to what it was before?
I don't know what DPS it did before, but I like the idea of it being dropped to 6, because I think the game with the.
What was it?
If we
Was
if
it
we
7?
before, yeah. If we go back to the beginning of Quake Live when they had the original hitboxes, you'll remember how easy it was to hit then. And then when
those
they
are the
changed
days.
it, they were the days, but they obviously made them hexagonal, and that made things a little bit more difficult to hit. But it was still LG dominant gameplay. I kind of feel that with 6 damage, we're not only going to see a bit of a shift in duel and make things a little bit more fresh, but it's just going to even things out a little bit. And you know, you're not going to have to worry about going up against an LG player with rockets in close range. You still might be able to win that fight. So I kind of like the idea of it being nerfed to 6.
Well,
It's possible they haven't even nerfed it enough. We're talking about a gun that was designed for a game in 1999 when people didn't have good mice, good mouse surfaces, or anything. It was hard to hit with it back then, even if you were good. Nowadays, it's almost to the point where the gun is just broken and doesn't even fit in the game. It's too easy to use. It's 6 damage now. I mean, is that a big deal? It was 765 at the start of Quake Live, went to 7, now it's 6. I don't see that this is an issue.
The weird thing, don't you think, though, is that the HMG does 8 damage per shot, and that's ridiculously easy to hit as well.
Well, it's got a big spread. I mean, if people aren't moving much, you'll hit them at distance, but I don't know. You'd have to play with it a lot to really get a feel for it. And I haven't played with it at all yet.
okay, so what are we saying? The lighting gun, I mean, is this
But
a small change?
The LG, I mean, it's fine, the change. It's not a big deal.
Does it make much difference? Is it a little bit harder to kill people with it, or is it just...
Yeah, I think I was actually watching Cypher vs.
Well,
Yayo
it's not
briefly.
harder to kill people with it, is it? It just takes slightly longer, but it's still such an easy-to-use weapon.
I thought you were saying it's a faster fire rate, though. So if, say, for example, on a
that
bounce
was in
pad,
the
you'll kill someone quicker, right? Or is that wrong?
Was that in the leaked? I thought it said it was faster fire. I don't think it's been changed in terms of fire speed now.
Okay.
I did see Yayo get absolutely obliterated. No, Cypher get... Well, one of them get absolutely obliterated by plasma at the beginning. It wasn't even that high of an accuracy. The LG, however, was hitting a lot, and it still went down. I did feel like before the change, 7 damage might have been able to pick up that front, but definitely afterwards, it didn't. I think it's going to be... It make things more interesting and fresh. I think that's what's going to be good about it. Duel, we've all seen... like Blood Run and Lost World played for I don't know how long now, and with the change I think it's going to freshen things up a little bit, so I think, yeah.
Okay, next point. Added damage number indicators for damage dealt can be customized by various color styles and enabled or disabled per weapon. So that's like similar to the sounds. Remember the sounds were introduced of how much damage, like a kind of scale. Actually, that's actually something they had back in the old Jedi Knight 2. When you hit somebody, they scream, and there was certain damage range sounds, and then all people did was create some kind of hack that would just tell you which sound did which, so it'd tell you which damage. Anyway, go on. 4.
It's a good spectator feature. I'm not sure it should be in game for people to actually see it. Part of the skill of Quake, with splash damage weapons in particular, was knowing how much you've done roughly, but not knowing exactly.
It's still difficult to know for sure when you're spamming lightning gun at someone, though, isn't it? Because it's not the implementation of it is like damage numbers just sort of fly out of the body onto the floor. It's where if you look at something like TF2, the damage number would always appear at the same place but float upwards. So in TF2, it's a lot easier to follow. And on top of that, on TF2, the number actually physically appears on the HUD, being the last damage dealt. So the last scatter shot you did 64 damage, that would stay on the HUD. So I think it's a lot more difficult to calculate for certain things. And on top of that, it doesn't also take account armor either. So you'd have to calculate that ratios and stuff.
It's a bit odd then, isn't it?
But still, it's a nice spectator feature, and I think it should kind of be left at that rather than be available in game.
I don't think it takes into account armor.
Well, it's like if you think of it like a beat 'em up. Is it beat 'em up? Is that what they're called? Like Street Fighter, etc. It's telling you can see the other person's health at all times. So I guess it's going along that kind of
different game genre. This.
Well,
wait, hold on. Can I just interrupt?
Well,
QWIH said, "Lol, I checked a VOR accuracy 9%, not even double digits." I think it's on your wrong profile.
Oh, VOR 9%.
I think he was being a bit sarcastic.
Ugh. things
You
could have
better
gone
be
wrong.
sarcastic.
If I'd have hit 9% in a game, I'd have probably quit and never come back.
Yeah.
I'd throw myself out the window immediately.
Okay, right.
If
So
you hit 9%.
the last point I've got here is for players who wish to largely avoid the new major changes, the legacy style of play has been preserved within the classic rule set. All of our public dual servers run in classic mode. Subscribers may host additional classic servers using our create match feature. This includes the launching of standard servers, which any player may freely join. Any player. So that kind of backs up, I guess, your point you said earlier that if everybody's that bothered, then we just need to boot a load of classic servers, all dual.
Well, exactly. If everybody thinks so highly of the classic rule set, then surely there's not going to be a shortage of servers. You see, I've got a pro account this. If I want to go and play Quake Live, guess what I can do? If there's no server available for me to join, I can spawn one and then persuade people to come and play on it.
How are you going to
Pretty
persuade
simple.
them? What are you going to offer them?
Oh, I'll offer them all sorts.
That sounds a bit dodgy, but okay. Each to their own. Novice, what about you?
In terms of, sorry, I must have missed the question. And
Well, just tell me, you got any other points you want to bring up? Did you want to talk about the fonts?
Okay,
the
let's talk
widescreen
about,
HUDs?
actually, I'll tell you what, the fonts are quite a good idea because
You're not going to get long to talk about this, by the way.
No, I remember an original comment in the Quake Live IRC chat at one point about why one of the reasons why there isn't sort of a more detailed spectator is obviously A, they don't want it being too messy, but B, the font kind of prevents them from doing certain things because of how it scales or something. So I'm going to assume, and maybe they can confirm, but this might allow them to do more with the spectator, which could be cool for us, obviously. And on top of that, just having non-stretched things as well with the hood is a nice addition. But yeah, the font I think could be quite good if I remember reading that correctly. That's all I have to say, but that could potentially be a really good thing.
Was there any more points you wanted to bring out?
Any more points? Actually, one more point to do with because they changed the respawn time, didn't they? If I can quickly mention that.
From 40 to 10 seconds.
Yeah,
The
or
ammo.
even, I
Do
think
you
it
mean
was
the ammo?
5 seconds. No,
The weapons are
weapon
5 and the
respawns,
ammo
5
is 10.
seconds. Yeah, my one concern about the weapon respawns being 5 actually is if you imagine a team like, say, our team back in the day, or a French team, or a team that hits a ridiculous accuracy, can you imagine the amount of ammunition they're going to have access to with
Can I
just
just
a
say one
lightning
thing
gun
about
spawn? Yeah, well, go for it.
My team would not be playing this game type, so it's not even a need to worry about it.
True, that is true.
But is it just 5-second spawn and doesn't that affect every type, or is it just... Have you played a classic TDM type?
Every type in...
Dual
I
was
haven't
5
actually.
seconds anyway, so I
Yeah.
guess it doesn't really make a difference there, but...
I'm just thinking, like
is it
just
all the
imagine
new game types.
Silent Sep or somebody with the rail spawn on DM20 just constantly. I think people... there's a point where some of these changes would only ever hurt noobs, so I hope the developers don't go and throw it into everything at some point, or force it there forever, because it could really hurt, I would say.
Yeah, although I'm not a fan of timing, having a delay on weapon spawns and ammo packs and power-ups and things like that, it actually adds a bit of strategy to the game. You can protect weapons, for example. In any game mode, you could defend a railgun from spawning if it's spawning every 30 seconds or whatever. So I think 5 seconds, it just means everybody's got weapons all the time. So, which is like this. That's a way of playing, isn't it?
It's good for new players to get into the game,
It's good for new players.
get hold of the weapons, and they've got their loadout then, and then they can go and grab other weapons easily to try out. It's not really fun to try and learn the game when you can't get hold of anything. I mean, back when we played Quake 3 TDM disc, when we were new to it, our first few games consisted of barely having anything other than a machine gun and a spare shotgun here
I don't
and there.
know why we kept playing.
Wasn't that easy to get into it then, was it?
It was so hard. I must have spent a year before I got even one positive net. And
let's
most
face
of that
it, if
year,
there
I
was
only
a
had
weapon
a rocket
available-
launcher or a shotgun.
It was basically my weapon because I was better at using them than you, so you wouldn't dare take it.
Well, no, that's not true. Leave
Well, I
me,
think
leave
it
me
is.
alone. I think we all established I'm better railer than you.
Not likely.
Better rocket. I was the best in the clan at rockets, remember? That was a statement made. All right, let's get on to the next point. How will it affect the day-to-day experience of playing the game? NVC?
From a public's perspective, I think it can only be a good thing because I would just prefer to jump into a game if there's no classic game types and just spawn with the weapons that I want, play. It's just more mindless in my eyes, and that's what I would prefer. But in terms of the day-to-day experience that people in TDM pick up, or see, or CTF or whatever, I don't think it's going to be big with the classic rule set. So.
Cool.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, I don't think it really changes anything.
No, nothing
Well,
at all.
No, I was going to say, you're still going to have the same people, I hope, playing in pickups and various competitions and stuff. They're going to be playing Classic. They don't have to worry about the changes. You know, pickup servers are going to be running Classic, obviously, where people spawn with the proper rule sets and things, rather than, you know, the 15-minute CTF and 15-minute TDM, etc. No one wants that, really, for, you know, that level of play. And I say again, if the game is as important to everyone as they make out, and these changes are such a big deal and they hate them so much, then there should be no shortage of classic servers full of people and you can play against them.
Yeah, but the whole thing is, if it's moving to Steam, and that's the whole rumour, or I don't know if that's confirmed, whatever, then the idea is this mode will bring new players in, right? And this is the mode that loads up. This is effectively the default mode. So everybody, like the vast majority of people in theory are going to be playing this mode. So,
well, it's down to current players who feel so strongly about how good the game is to persuade those new people and make them aware of the classic game type, classic mode, whatever you want to call it. Steer them away from the new stuff and steer them into what we so strongly think is such a great game.
What do you think for the long-term impacts then?
Well, you might see a drop-off in the long term of how many people play Classic. Getting used to saying Classic, it's really weird. Like we're talking about a different game.
Yeah.
But yeah, there probably will be a drop-off. But there's already a drop-off. There's been a drop-off for the last God knows how many years. It's not like there's been a steady influx of people into the community, steadily making things bigger. If anything, any new people that come in don't actually make any difference to, you know, what you see in terms of TDM scene, the CTF scene, dual scene, because they're not replacing the high-level players that gradually drop out. You know, we're talking about high-level players who've been playing Quake for, 10 years? It's natural over time that they drop off. There isn't any replacement coming in for them, and there hasn't been for a long time. So, yeah, we're going to continue to lose players, but it's not the fault of this patch. It's not the changes that are going to cause that. It's just natural.
What do you think, Novice? You agree?
I do. Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, I do agree entirely with all. I mean, we all know there's a lot of other changes that could, you know, more benefit the game. If you can even bring a game like Quake back into the limelight, because you could even go further and look at other arena FPS games trying to come in. They're still going to have the same problem. It's not as easy. You're always going to have to hold fire and hold your crosshair on someone for longer than 4 seconds sometimes to kill them. You don't need to do that in Counter-Strike. It's always going to have that problem. So it's just changing small things to gameplay isn't not going to really make a difference. I'm definitely in.
So you think these changes effectively are just going to slow the progression of Quake's death, or not even really have a dent or an impact?
Well, it depends what
is
you
it
mean
dying?
by Quake's
Is
death.
it going to rebuild? Is it going to survive? Is it going to see a rebirth? Or
Depends what you consider death to be. Nobody playing Quake live at all. That's not likely to happen. But a reduction of how many top level players there are. Well, over time that will happen, but it won't be because of the patch. It'll be just happening regardless.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with that definitely.
Because it doesn't matter how many new players, let's say the Steam release brings in, you could give those new players 10 years and they still wouldn't be at the level of Cypher, etc. And why not? Because they didn't have the same environment that Cypher had to grow up playing Quake in. He grew up playing it in a cutthroat competitive environment that had international LANs regularly. He was able to improve by playing against the best players in the world on a consistent basis. no one coming to the game is ever going to have that.
And he wasn't an overnight success either, was he? I mean,
Exactly,
Cypher
it wasn't
was playing
overnight.
in Quake 3 days. I mean, he was playing for years. So, yeah, I mean, well, is it over for Quake Live?
I don't think it's over.
Well, a lot of people are claiming they'll quit following these
What
changes.
But what else are they going to play?
Do you think maybe there's a chance to return to Quake 3? Maybe? Novice?
I think it's too difficult to get hold of. Like, it sounds stupid to say, but yeah, I mean, you can buy Quake 3 on Steam, but then you got to download, say, Pro Mode. Then you've got an entire, say, config to set up, or mod to install, or maps to download, and that wouldn't happen. And if it did happen, it'd be even smaller. And as far as Quake goes, anyway, 1v1's the main game, and that's, as far as we can tell, not even affected, apart from the LG6 damage. So I guess it depends what perspective you're coming from.
That just highlights my problem with the game anyway, is the total focus on duel, killing off any kind of community. But anyway, Vor, what about you?
Well, I don't think it's over for Quake Live at all. And as for going back to Quake 3, the option to go back to Quake 3 has always been there. And if anything, it's something that the competitive scene should have looked at a long time ago, is going back to Quake 3. You know, it's way too late now, but after Quake Live came out, I always thought that Quake Live would be where you play public and stuff for the ease of access to the servers, and I thought that competition would probably stick with Quake 3 because of the customization options, the spectating options and stuff like that. It was the superior platform for pure competition. And as for whether or not people will go back to Quake 3 now, I don't see it at all. It's got to the point where there's no chance. You'll never get a public scene back on Quake 3, or at least a significant one. Not unless you're going to have a lot of generous people who want to put up Quake 3 servers and cover the cost of those. And when you actually compare the cost of running a Quake 3 server to a Quake Live subscription that gives you the ability to spawn servers, it's, wow, the difference is huge. I mean, unless you can just
used
afford
to be 30
have,
quid a month a server.
Well, yeah, I imagine it's cheaper than that now. But to have a Quake 3 server running for a whole year, unless you've got a spare machine and an internet connection that can handle it, which, by the way, still costs money, even if you are willing to just, you know, not think about the cost, it still costs money.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to happen. You might have a handful of servers put up by some disgruntled people who hate Quake Live so much for whatever reason, but, you know, you never get a shift of significant numbers back to Quake 3.
Yeah, I think as well, I don't think people realise how good they've got it with Quake Live. I mean, they give some of the developers a lot of shit for some of the decisions they apparently don't like that they make. But if we were to go back to Quake 3, we've got two options. OSP, where anything above 30 ping is still literally impossible to hit anything. In fact, Weird would be happy with that. That's probably the only game that Weird will ever play is OSP, providing he has a good ping, of course. And then you've got CPMA, which I play a lot of CPM in CPMA, the gameplay voting. And that's obviously what's now called Turbo, which is another change. It's no longer PQL in Quake Live.
Should just kill that game off.
Well, hold on a minute. But my point is, like, Quake Live up until this point with 7 damage was definitely LG heavy. If we were to go back to CPMA, Cypher would literally be unstoppable, and he's already an amazing player at the moment.
I think a lot of people forget that Quake 3 had Cripple. So even if you can't aim Lightning Gun well in Quake Live, you'll find it a hell of a lot easier to aim it in Quake 3, because once you get locked on, it's almost impossible to escape the beam.
Yeah, that Amphi on that game is just low ITI.
We used to play Amphi, and we used to hit like 65 LG on each other.
It was ridiculous. That was our warm-up for TDM.
And I used to beat you both.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You just sat on the platform.
I beat Fox
like
as well.
A little scaredy person.
No, I played Tactics on Amphi.
Tactics. but yeah, I don't think people realise how good they've got. I think the game that Quake Live is now is one of the most balanced Quakes, or in terms of the Quake 3 era that we've had. So
the Lightning Gun in Quake 3, VQ3 is absurd. It's unplayable.
You love it though.
I do love it from a personal point of view and how easy it was for me to use it, but
yeah.
As an actual good game, it's awful.
Yeah, Quake Live is definitely the game out of all of them for vanilla gameplay. It's just, I hope it doesn't stray too far to the point where people feel like they want to go back, only to then be massively disappointed for
Most
what
of
waits
these
for
people
them.
are all talk. They wouldn't even go back because, you know, these people who can't even come up with the obvious alternative in Quake Live, which is spawn classic servers and play on them. You know, they're not even willing to pay for the ability to do that.
Have you paid for?
Yeah, I've paid. I've got a pro account. And you really think that these people are going to be able to organise a good selection of servers to be able to play on Quake 3 if they're not willing to pay a little bit of money to play Quake Live? It will never happen.
Pay a pittance.
I don't think it's that expensive, especially after the changes they made, and now it's just the one subscription to Pro with server launching abilities.
How much
I think
is
it's
it?
quite fair.
It's about 28 quid, I think.
A year?
Yeah.
A whole year?
I'll bring it up on.
That
I
really
haven't
is not that
resubscribed yet.
expensive.
I was
It really
waiting
isn't.
until.
It's not expensive when you consider that you can spawn a server at any time
No,
and you control the settings on it.
it's actually really cheap. I mean, granted, like some people would argue, you pay for a game once that costs, I don't know, 60 quid nowadays, and
Yeah.
you can play that forever.
But those games are mostly all trash. It's like, oh, I bought a new COD, which I probably will, for 60 quid, and, you know, I'll be done with it within a year. You know,
Less
people
than
have
a
had,
year.
like, half their life around Quake, and they're not willing to pay yearly for it. I find that amazing. I don't even play it much, and I pay for it. You know, I keep wanting to get back into it, but I find it hard to get back in when there's not the competition for me to play in like there used to be. You know, I've fallen out of that scene, as it were, and to just play the game casually is quite difficult for me. But, you know, I'm still willing to keep my subscription running in case I do want to play it.
Just to support it.
Yeah, just to support it. I'm surprised that people won't do the same. You know, people make such a big deal out of these changes and how it's ruined their favourite game and stuff, and yet it really hasn't. And yet they're not. Some people just aren't willing to, you know, pay to be able to do what they could before. And, you know, there's so many people you see who've played the game long term who don't have premium accounts. At least have a premium account, even if you don't have Pro.
Well, how much
Pretty
is
sure
premium?
there's people that have never bought
It's
it.
like half the cost of Pro or
Can
less.
you get premium now?
I don't think you
or
can
is
get it now. I think they merged it.
Oh, I did? I don't
So
know.
you might, if you paid before, yours will. Did you buy Pro before? So yours would have been automatically upgraded. But people that didn't,
I
I
had
had a
premium.
premium subscription running, and I recently renewed to Pro instead of premium.
I think I've got premium. I think I bought it 6 months ago or something. I haven't even played the game. Just bought it. Stupid. Just a waste of money. Right?
You have to give people an incentive to pay for the game. You can't just guilt trip them into it. Well, the incentive
Guilt
is
trip
you
me.
get to play the game you supposedly love so much. That's the incentive to
argument.
pay.
all I'd say is go play a duel in CPMA and then come back. You'll probably come back and tell me that you absolutely love it because you suddenly hit 1,000,000% lightning gun, but then you'll just get smashed harder by the top end players.
I won't worry
because
about it because no one's gonna play CPMA.
I think people need to
Terrible
realize
style
that
of
it's
game.
yeah. I think people need to realize that it wouldn't happen, or if they did, it'd be worse for them to actually see that way.
Well, let's talk about the effect on other.
Wait,
arena
one sec. I
FPS
just have to
games.
answer this. This is from
Wait,
the chat.
Go on.
I
have a
wonder
chat.
how much it'd pay these ass clowns to kiss ass on stream. Look, they don't pay anything because the game we like is still there. I don't really like the changes personally to the new type of the new game type, and I doubt I'll play it. I might try it for the novelty factor, but it's not really aimed at people like me. The game I like's still there. I can go play it anytime I want. I put up a server right now.
Play it right now, for
Exactly.
get everybody
But-
off the stream and into the game.
Exactly. It's nothing's changed. If they had taken away Classic and replaced it with this, my attitude would be entirely different. But that isn't what's happened. You know, if they'd have replaced the game with this new stuff, you know, we'd probably be slating them. Or if they forced you to pay to play it at all, you know, you can have pro servers up, but you have to pay to join them. You know, if that was the case, you know, I wouldn't be happy either. But as it is, anyone can join a classic server that's been spawned by a pro. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
All those cheapskates who have loved Quake 3 for like 15 years can continue to not pay, but they can still join the server and enjoy the game they love so much that won't pay for.
But Vor, I just want to open this out to everybody. Like, if id do want to pay us to suck up, yep, sure, I'm open to it.
Not me, this.
You might
I don't go in for that.
might have to hold back on some of your regular comments or perhaps past comments. Retract them. Vor. But all this kissing up, hopefully, make us a bit of money. Well, yeah. Anyway, I wanted to get on to the next point: effect on other FPS games and how they'll compete with QL. So, I mean, I don't even know what we're thinking about here.
Well,
What other FPS arena shooters are there? Any coming out?
Well, the thing is, this now that Quake Live is dead because all these changes have ruined it, I imagine the other Arena FPS games out there will be doing quite well.
Well, what are they?
Well, I wrote a little small article.
What are they?
Some of them. I got.
Go on.
I wrote. You obviously got Reflect, but I'll go through top to bottom of this. I got Blue Streak, Chroma.
What's
I
Blue
think
Streak?
Blue
What's
Streak is
Chroma?
the. Do you remember Cliffy B from the old Unreal Tournament days, and obviously
Yeah, the
Gears
name,
of War
yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
He made a company called Boss Key, who are publishing. Well, Nexon are publishing the game.
It's just a bunch
His
of
company is
stupid
Boss Key.
names. God.
Yeah, well, apparently his new Arena FPS is called Boss Key. I've seen some concept art, but there's nothing.
So it's not out.
Yeah, it's nowhere near.
Okay.
They're still hiring a team, but obviously it's Cliffy B, and Cliffy B is apparently
He's a
still
legend.
a legend. So apparently there's going to be a good game there. I don't know. The next one I got is Chroma, who is actually developed by Harmonix in cooperation with Hidden Path Entertainment. That's sort of like a music-based FPS, but Hidden Path are behind Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So.
A what now?
What do you do?
Music-based. It sounds
what?
weird, right? I've
Listen,
not played it, but
There's only one question that matters here. Can I throw guitars at people?
you can in Left 4 Dead.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, there you go.
That's a
proper arena
superior
super.
FPS game.
Yeah, go on.
Next one I've got is not really an
Is
arena
that out,
FPS game. Chroma, I think.
How long is this list, by the way? I mean, so far I've learned of the 2 new games I've never heard of.
Yeah, there's a couple of new games you probably never heard of. I don't know if Chroma's out yet. I don't think it is. I
Okay,
think it's still in
right.
development.
So
I
they're
think you
not
can.
out,
It might be
right.
able to actually try a closed beta or something. I'm not sure, but.
Okay.
I've got Dirty Bomb, which isn't really an arena FPS, but it's like Brink 2.0, kind of futuristic. But the thing is, like, there's been a lot of new arena FPS games that kind of don't look like arena FPS games, but I think this year every company,
What
like
makes
even the
them
new Call of
arena,
Duty,
then?
well, that's it. Like even the new Call of Duty has said arena, just
Well,
because.
yeah,
you
this
can
is
do
the other
some-
thing I wanted to ask. Like, the change of direction from what I saw at COD, and then we got games like Reflex and Reborn and blah 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 potentially. You know, like overall, keep going with your list.
Okay, so there was that. Then I've got Unreal Tournament 4. And then after that, so another Unreal Tournament.
Why are you
I don't
speaking
know.
about Unreal Tournament?
Yeah, but like
around
Unreal
a Quake
Tournament,
audience?
is this new Unreal Tournament a serious game? Is it
you want me
seriously
to-
a big budget game? 'Cause I just get the feeling it's not. It's like
Wait.
something they're doing for a laugh or something.
I
I don't even know.
I've got a video. Wait, I've got a video. Let me just get it. I play it with Zancubus sometimes.
It's out.
You can.
Unreal Tournament's out.
Yeah, you can play the.
What?
You can't play a
An early
video on the
development.
stream.
I'm not going to play it.
give
I'm
a
going to
link.
link it in the
Yeah.
chat. It's like a, let's just say a make fun of video because it's ridiculous. I don't understand, but obviously the developers seem to have their minds in the right places in terms of like features for spectators and stuff. So there's that, I guess.
Okay.
But I have to ask this: is the new Unreal Tournament, is it as big in terms of budget and level
Nobody's
of
really-
development
nobody really
as the
knows.
original ones?
I don't. I think they've got like a development team of like 5, but they've got
Well,
an
the
entire
answer is no
community.
then.
Yeah, the answer is no. But and it just feels like Unreal Tournament. It feels slow. It feels.
Yeah,
it-
I
no
it's
one's
not even
gonna.
a game
no
to
one.
me.
Yeah,
It's clunky.
It's not. It's not my kind of
Look,
game.
I know I respect the people who are good at it and stuff, but it's just not for me. You know, I've watched it in the past, and you know, last time I probably watched it was ESWC 10 years
yeah,
ago.
I
But,
remember that. Yeah.
but you know, it's not for me.
But
It's their choice of
Gits.
game.
Was that
You know,
it?
their movement design and things. It's just so clunky to me.
But what I'm looking forward to though is the Unreal Tournament versus Quake thing again, because that could obviously revitalize a little bit of rivalry.
I think we're moving away from the topic.
Yeah,
though, is,
true. Anyway, I've got more. I'll go from quickly. Reborn, obviously James Toogood Harding. I got Reflex.
that real?
Do you say is it Unreal?
Is that real?
Oh, is that real? There has been some gameplay on his stream. I don't know how far
I
it's
see.
gone.
Well,
saw that a
there
while
you go
ago.
then. I haven't kept up with it. You know,
Yeah.
unless it gets posted on the SR, I don't really notice it.
Was that the
There's-
map building thing?
Yeah,
Where
but
he's
he had a
jumping
lot of
around.
movement around, and there was like a rewind button where you could go back on yourself and turn back time. That looked pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know. You can actually download that thing now and have a go on it. I know
You
that.
can download Reborn.
Yeah, like the sandbox map thing, and have a run around. Am I the only one that still plays games?
No.
Then you got Reflex.
Candy Crush count?
as well.
Well, I saw Reflex on your stream, MVC, and you know, it's probably not my sort of game, but it's looking good. I have to say, in terms of visually,
Yeah.
all the stuff they're planning to add to it. You know, I like the sound of it. It's just I'm not sure the gameplay will be for me.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing with it. It just comes down to the gameplay, and I think a lot of people already hate or dislike CPM that play
It
Quake
looked
Live.
exactly like CPM to me.
At the moment,
It didn't help
kind
they're
of
playing on the
feels like
CPM
it.
map, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's similar movement. You can't wall clip like you can in Quake. I don't think that's going to be a thing either, and you can't do a few other things as well. But yeah, it's CPM, so I don't think that's really going to have a huge effect on the Quake community. It'll be a different or a slightly different community that'll be interested in that, I imagine. You got Project Nex, which was that Warsaw Unreal Tournament hybrid. It's on Steam. It's been greenlit. Will that have an effect? It's in Unity, is it? Isn't it?
Unity engine.
Yeah. I don't really know much about Unity. All I know it's never been used before, so I can't imagine that would be competitive. And then Doom, the new Doom. as well.
Oh,
That won't be playable.
okay.
No offense to Weird, but you know that's just going to be like it's going to be a showcase of their latest technology and stuff. And maybe 5 years' time you'll have a computer that can run it. But no, you won't be playing that anytime soon as a competitive game or savior of arena FPS.
Doom wasn't I never particularly liked
Well,
watching
let's just look at
Doom's
Doom.
deathmatch
Doom
anyway.
free. Doom free. Do you fancy downloading a 50,000 gig demo to watch the final of some competition? I
You
don't.
won't need demos in the future, mate. We've got all this streaming. Live stream it. VODs. That's where it's at.
But I mean, that's all the Arena FPS games that I got.
So there's
There might
plenty
be a
out there,
couple
and
more.
now that Quake Live's dead, they'll all see a big boost in how many people want to play them.
Yeah, but what it comes down to for me is I don't think any of those games, unless this is where I think it'd have got something here. Like Quake as a name, the name alone, I think is what would keep people playing. I legitimately like but then again, you've got Too Good on like Reborn, so maybe that would be enough to maybe
Yeah, but
draw some people.
Too
over.
Good isn't as big as the brand Quake.
But that's what, yeah, exactly.
The
This
only
is what
thing
I
I'd
mean.
say is, over time, the reputation of Quake is decaying. You know, there hasn't been a new Quake release, and you know, a relaunch of Quake Live doesn't count. Quake Live itself doesn't
Quake
count.
4
There hasn't
was
been a new.
what, 2007? 2006 maybe? Quake 4?
5,
2000?
6? Well, whatever it was a long time ago. And as time passes by, the name Quake gets forgotten about. It's going to need a major release to, you know, get its name back in the spotlight.
Anytime I've mentioned it to people, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I remember playing that when I was a kid." Yeah,
When I was a kid, 50 years ago.
yeah, in the 90s is what they're talking about. And they'll be like, and a lot of people, you have to actually, funnily enough, you have to say, "Oh, Doom," you know, like Doom. Everybody's heard of Doom. That would actually be the great potential there. If you could just create a Doom like deathmatch exactly like Quake, pretty much, but just in Doom.
Look, just bring out Quake 5, right?
Call it
Cutting
Doom.
edge, just like Quake 3 was at the time. You know, people buying new PCs for it. Don't handicap it by releasing on consoles, or if you do, release a separate version of the game so that it doesn't cripple the PC version, and then we're in business.
And also,
And then we need Quake 6 3 years later, at least.
and make it free, right? And sell
No?
sell
No,
hats.
please, no.
Sell
No.
hats, right? And bundle it with every computer sold in the world.
You
Now that would work.
I played Team Fortress 2 for a while, and this is not kind of slightly off topic. And for the longest time, they eliminated or banned like most of the weapons that you could like unlock from crates or get from drops. And then all of a sudden, they thought, you know what will bring in all the new players if we allow all of these new weapons into the game? And it's just like, is that what it's come to? Don't even know. But I hope it. I would hope that it wasn't. I mean, I think Quake Live in its current state works, but I think if there was ever going to be a new Quake or even a Quake Live 2.0, if that wasn't to be Quake Live but like a full-on release, I would be really nice to see a retail. But maybe we've gone past those days.
So, should we sort of round it up now then? So,
Do you want to talk about the new COD game?
yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. God, I
The
watched
last
that
thing.
video. I watched this video, and I said this to you, Vor. There's a video. I don't know. Someone posted it on ESR, I guess, about the new COD game, and somebody analysing how it was like an arena shooter.
Yeah, I mean,
And
to some extent, I think it was a bit over the top with, oh, it's an arena shooter. Well, no, it's not really, but it's different to what COD normally is. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't played all the COD games. I didn't play the most recent one, but I played, every other game. I normally skip a year. So, I know what's going on in COD, and this is a major change, and it could actually help Quake in a way because
Stepping stone.
yeah, it moves away from the traditional COD. It's slightly more vertical gameplay. You're going to have to actually do more than just look in a flat plane now. You might actually have to look up slightly. You might have to look down when you're in the air and stuff. And, it might just help slightly whet people's appetite for that type of gameplay. And I'm not going to be delusional and think it's going to drive people to Quake, but, it could be the start of a shift in what people like to play in terms of FPS.
It's like a cycle, isn't it? You start off with these kind of...
Well, you hope it is, because there is no cycle at the moment. There's no cycle where we're going to get back to Quake type games soon.
Yeah,
because
but
let's face it, COD doesn't need to change its formula to be a success.
I just think it's like a general entertainment cycle, though, that you go through periods of like really simple stuff, and those people sort of grow out of that, and then suddenly you get much more complex games taking the bigger stage, and that
I think
is
it's the same for
effectively
me.
Quake or StarCraft or whatever.
Yeah,
Same,
like,
same
I
for
mean,
you.
I go from different. Yeah, no, and in that I have my periods where I really fancy playing Quake, and then other times I want to have a few months in this other game. I'm a bit burnt out from playing the arena style FPS, so I'll play some Counter Strike for this many
You're
months,
probably
or
just
some League
fed
of
up of
Legends.
winning in Quake so easily. You just
Well,
have to move
yeah,
on some
you know,
new challenges.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean, though. Like I think it's the same for everybody. I think it's a good point that you make.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to sort of summarize it now then. So, overall, these changes, the future of Quake is in the balance. Has much changed? Are we still just ranting at people for not having paid as under our paymasters of id? What's the
Well, I'm
summary?
not ranting at people. I'm just saying that, if you love the game, then nothing's changed. Keep playing it. You don't have to pay to play it, but you probably should. It's worth it after all. It's Quake, and yeah, it's just nothing's different. Don't make a big deal out of nothing.
I don't. You can. People can always complain, but you don't have to start shouting that you're going to quit the game, this, that, and the other, because the game is still there.
And let's
that
face
everyone wants to
it, you
play.
ain't gonna go and find a better alternative.
Yeah.
Well,
Not for the next year at least. You've got a year until we can ever probably likely see one of these new arena FPS games actually be in a state where it could remotely keep up.
Probably, realistically, it's even longer than that.
Yeah, realistically. So just like put your thoughts down constructively, and pretty sure like the things that have been changed. Like again, let's face it. A lot of changes like matchmaking and ladders and stuff that again would require a lot of people that we'd rather have. But at the same time, the changes
Oh,
that we've
man.
had made.
here we go.
That's a topic for another
Literally.
day.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Right.
please,
Then
for a rant.
listen,
And it's like he
this is
set you up for.
This is the next show. This will be the next show. The myth of matchmaking and why it won't save Quake Live. Jesus Christ.
You see, it won't save it, but to actually make it work, you need a ridiculous amount of players anyway. But like, yeah, it's just, the game is still there for everyone to play. If you want to play it. Put your thoughts constructively down and just, I don't know, yeah.
All right.
Quake will always be Quake.
Okay, well, let's just go over a few little other things I just got to say before we get on to our Q&A, which we kindly asked. Kindly? We asked in ES Reality, and we got a few questions, and we've loaded them up. But first,
Well, let's tie this up, then cut the VOD, and then get
tie
to that.
this up. Cut the VOD. Are we cutting the VOD?
Yeah.
We'll see.
It'll be
Actually,
section.
technically, on Twitch now, you need to highlight, otherwise it won't save. So you've got to highlight anyway.
I used to highlight anyway, so yeah. Just to note, on our YouTube channel, I've been uploading loads of owned captures, mainly of Slobies. I haven't watched them. I saw some comments of people
And
saying
that's
this-
Icebox TV for people who
Yeah.
remember back. It covered a lot of the Zotac tournaments and maybe some other stuff as well.
loads of American stuff, like American pickups, things like that.
Yeah, so if you're ever short of Quake action, you want to check out some of that older stuff, then that'll be interesting.
I'm trying when I can to get at least one up a day, but it takes a time to sort this stuff. But there's literally like 200 more VODs to come, something like that, and like some from our own channel as well, which I don't think went up onto YouTube, but they might have. So it actually might be duplicates. But then I would have thought YouTube would tell me. So we'll see. I was also thinking maybe we could do this more regularly, this kind of chat show thing. I don't think we're going to get much time to do streams, but we'll see. So maybe we'll do this, and also just always do a Q&A, because I think actually, as we'll do in a minute, the Q&A really brings out what people want to discuss, and it is actually quite interesting.
Yeah, and people came up with some really good stuff. So
yeah, so all right,
and some less serious stuff.
So you want me to cut this into a separate VOD?
Yeah, just finish the show, and then we'll move on to the next bit.
Okay, so remember to like us on Facebook /LevelUpTV. You can subscribe on YouTube, Level Up TV. Again, Twitter, Twitch, follow the channel, blah, 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 blah. You get alerted when we go live. You'll turn up half an hour late, etc. Thanks to NVC. Thanks to Vorth.
It's like a legendary reunion of Level Up TV founders.
It is the founders of Level Up TV. I don't know why you let it stagnate and fail in our hands, Novice, to be honest, but...
Well,
Yeah, each to their own, eh? Right, gonna finish, then we'll be back in like 5 seconds, so... Bye! Say bye, everybody!
Bye. Hello.